Today marks the 22nd, which is the date that the Oceanic 815 crashed on the remote island in the South Pacific, and it's also the date that Lost premiered. I can't think of a better day to review Lost Season 1, which is, in my opinion, the best show of all time. So, here we go. The series that changed everything for the television landscape turns 20 years old this year. Lost has been my favorite show for a long time now, and while it isn't a perfect show by any means, I was so into the characters, the lore, the mythology, the mysteries, and no other series had captivated me like Lost did. The show is about a group of survivors that crash lands on a remote island in the South Pacific. The survivors, come to realize that this is a normal island. It's filled with mysteries. There's a huge monster roaming in the jungle. There are polar bears. They discover that they are not alone on this island. There are other people on this island as well, and there are metal hatches buried in the ground. Lost is a show that's filled with mystery, intrigue, suspense, and just a wonderful writing. It's really a phenomenal show. Lost has a terrific ensemble of characters and wonderful performers. I think that it's such a well acted show. The actors here are phenomenal. They really do a good job. It's such a well written show. Pilot Part 1 is probably the best pilot I've ever seen. I think it's just amazing. It introduces us to the characters superbly. Jack awakens in the jungle. He goes in to rescue some of the survivors from the wreckage of the plane. Like, you meet everybody in like the first 15 minutes. It's so well done. It's just suspenseful stuff. You're introduced to some of the mysteries of the show, like the monster that's roaming in the middle of jungle at night. You got a polar bear. It's fantastic stuff. So Jack, Kate, and Charlie head out in the middle of the jungle to find the second part of the plane, which has like the transceiver in it, and they can hopefully send out a signal for help. So they go out into the jungle and they find the pilot, played by Greg Grunberg. And the pilot gets eaten by the smoke monster. Charlie and Kate and Jack, they head back to the beach with the transceiver. And that's how the first part ends. So they go back to the beach, and Saeed tells Kate that they need to get to the highest point of the island so that they could send out a mayday signal, and they need to climb up the highest mountain. So the group goes with Saeed, Kate, Boone, Shannon, you got Sawyer, Charlie. They all head up on to this mountain, while Jack, he operates on the marshal, who is badly wounded and who tells him like this terrible secret about Kate. And so they finally get the transceiver to work, and they don't even try to send out a signal because another signal is blocking theirs. There's a French signal, a French woman speaking, and Shannon is able to translate, and it is revealed that this signal has been working for 17 years, which means that this woman has been stuck on this island for 17 years and has never been found. And the episode ends with Charlie saying, "Guys, where are we?" This is one of the best pilots I've ever seen. It moves so rapidly. It really is awesome. I give this pilot episode a 9.5 out of 10. Next up, episode 3 is Tabula Rasa. Jack learns in this episode that Kate is a fugitive because of the marshal, and he doesn't know what to do about it yet. The marshal tells Jack not to trust her. So meanwhile, Jack tries to operate on the marshal in order to save his life, but like he can't really save him. He's yelling in agony, and the survivors are like really upset at it. And like it comes to him begging Kate to kill him, but she asks Sawyer to do it. And Sawyer just misses the marshal's heart. He fires, and the marshal just bleeds out, and it can take him like hours for him to die. So uh, Sawyer tried to be kind here, but he kind of really made a mistake at the same time. Flashbacks in this episode shows Kate on a farm. She's working for this man who is widowed, and he actually sells her out to the marshal, and that's how she gets caught, and that's how she ends up on the Oceanic Flight 815. So I'd give this episode a 9 out of 10 rating, and I love the song, the Wash Away song at the end that plays. I think it's a pretty entertaining episode. Walkabout. Walkabout is one of the best episodes of the entire series. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I love seeing John Locke's flashback. It's so well done, and we discovered that he was a cripple back on the mainland, and he got healed because of the island. We don't know how yet. The series will answer this later on, but it's just an incredible episode. And in this episode, the survivors start hunting for boars because food is running out, and Locke proposes that they should hunt. I love the scene where he throws the knife at Sawyer and it lands directly next to Sawyer, and Jack says you either have good aim or you have bad aim. And near the end of the episode, a funeral is held for the dead people that were on the plane. And Claire just says things about them. And I love the scene where Locke can't get on the bus. They won't let him because of his handicap. And he's like, "Don't tell me what I can't do." It's such an emotional scene. It gets me every time. I'd give Walkabout a 9.5 out of 10 rating. White Rabbit. The water supply is growing thin for survivors. Jack decides to go out in the jungle to find some water, but as he does so, he keeps seeing his father, Christian Shepherd, who died in Sydney, Australia, and he keeps having this vision of him, and he goes after him, and he almost falls down a cliff. Locke saves him, and I love the conversation between him and Locke. I love the small conversations between them, and Locke tells him that this place is special, and that he looked in the eye of this island, and what he saw was beautiful. He probably just thinking about how he got healed from his handicap. So Jack eventually finds a cave with water in it, thanks to his father. And he finds his father's empty coffin, and he just bashes it angrily. I love this scene. He just loses it, and he destroys the coffin completely. I love Jack's speech at the end, where the survivors are getting angry at Boone because Boone actually stole some of the water to help others. But of course, the people aren't gonna see it that way. They think that Boone is gonna use all the water for him. And so, people are getting angry at Boone, but, Jack tells them to stop, and he tells them that they should live together or they are going to die alone. One of the best quotes of the series, for sure. I love this episode. I'd give this a 9 out of 10. Next up is House of the Rising Sun. So Jack, Locke, Kate, and Charlie go to the caves together to investigate it. They find 2 bodies there, and Locke names them Adam and Eve. We later find out how they died. Locke knows that Charlie is addicted to heroin. He's the first person to find out. It surprises me that he finds out before Jack, because Jack is a trained doctor, and he knows what's wrong with people, and I'm just surprised that Locke finds this out first. So he trades Charlie his guitar for the heroin, which is right up their heads. That's a bit far-fetched, but you just go with it because it's such a really funny moment. So back on the beach, Jin attacks Michael brutally, and he later finds out that Sun actually speaks English. He hides it from Jin. The survivors, they put Jin in handcuffs after he beat Michael. And Jin has violent tendencies. He's really a violent man, an angry man at first, just because he was working with Sun's father in the past, and he was beating people up that owed his father money. And so Michael learned that Jin beat him up because he had son's father's watch on, and like he found it in the wreckage, and like he decided to wear it, and that's why like Jin beat the crap out of him. So like Michael he goes to see Jin, and so like he comes at him with an axe, and he cuts off the handcuffs, and he frees Jin, and he's like, the time doesn't matter on a goddamn island. And in this episode, in flashbacks, we see like the past relationship of Jin and Sun. I'd give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. Next up is The Moth. The Moth is a really great episode. It's a really entertaining episode, in my opinion. I love the conversation between Charlie and Locke. Charlie like wants Locke to give him back his stash because he's feeling withdrawal. So Locke will give him like 3 chances to ask him, and at the 3rd chance, he will actually give the stash to Charlie because he wants Charlie to make the decision for himself to not use heroin anymore. And so Charlie asks Locke 3 times, and at the end, like Charlie actually like dumps the heroin stash in the fire, which is great. Like Charlie decides to change. I love the conversation between him and Locke, where Locke like shows him the moth in the cocoon, and he's like, I could help him out. I could use my knife to open up the cocoon, but like he'd be too weak to survive. And so it's just great stuff. Like this season is full of great like monologues or just great conversations. I love it so much. And so Jack and Charlie, they have a conversation back at the caves, but Charlie like sort of snaps at Jack because, like I said, he's in withdrawal and he's not really feeling himself. And the cave collapses on them. Like the survivors, they try to get them out of this cave. Charlie actually sees a moth in the cave, and they find another way out. And they go through this hole, and Charlie is seen as a hero, and he decides to, like I said, stop using heroin. I'd give The Moth a 9 out of 10. I think it's a really good episode of the series. Next episode is Confidence Man. Confidence Man is a great episode. It fleshes out Sawyer really well. Sawyer is my favorite character on this show, and I think that this episode is probably one of the best episodes featuring him. So the episode starts off with Shannon having her asthma attacks, and Boone he searches through Sawyer's stash. Sawyer beats him up, and Boone goes to see Jack, and he is convinced that Sawyer has this medicine, which of course we later find out that he doesn't. Saeed and Jack decide to torture Sawyer. It's not the best way to do it, but they actually decide to torture him. Saeed is good at what he does, and so Sawyer, he tells them that he wants to give them the medicine, but he only wants to talk to Kate. And so he asks Kate for a kiss in exchange for the inhalers, and the two of them, they kiss, but he tells her that he doesn't have it, and she punches him angrily. She tells this to Jack and Saeed. Saeed doesn't believe him, and so he stabs him in the arm as Sawyer tries to escape. It's just like really an intense moment, an intense scene. And Jack tries to patch Sawyer up. Saeed is feeling really guilty about what he's done, and he goes into exile. Kate also reads Sawyer's letter, and she figures out that it's not somebody that's written Sawyer this letter. It's actually him that wrote this letter, because he wants to feel bad all the time. I guess he doesn't want people to like him. That's her theory. And I sort of pity Sawyer because he's had such a terrible childhood. I'd give this episode a 9 out of 10. Next up is Solitary. Hurley decides to create a golf course for the survivors so that they can have fun and stop worrying for a minute, because things have been so bad on the island for numerous days. And this really brings a lot of levity to the show. Hurley is always the one that tries to help everybody and tries to make everybody feel safe. Jack Jack even says this as much, and it really works. Like having a golf course there, like helps everyone just stop worrying. And I think that this is a really good episode. Saeed is also kidnapped by Russo, and he soon realizes that she's insane. He helps her repair her music box, and she tells him about her past and like what happened to her science team and what happened to her daughter. And they then both hear like this monster growl outside. It's she tells him like it's the security system to protect the island, and so she goes out. Saeed manages to escape. He grabs a bunch of maps and grabs a gun. I love the moment like when he tries to fire the gun at her, but like it doesn't fire. But she lets him leave anyway. Like there's no point really in killing Saeed. She leaves first, and then he goes back to the beach. And on his way back, he's like lost, and he hears like the whispers in the middle of the jungle. It's really like a creepy ending. I give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. Like not the best episode of the season, but I think it's pretty good. Next up is Raised by Another. So Saeed returns to camp. He's badly wounded, and he tells the others about like his encounters with Russo and how like there are other people on this island and they can whisper in the jungle. So Claire wakes up screaming 2 nights in a row. Like she thinks that somebody is after her child, her unborn child. And Jack doesn't believe her. He thinks that like she's just stressed out, and she thinks that she's having nightmares. So this attack like persuades Hurley to check on the flight manifest, and I love the scene where he goes to see Sawyer, and she's just like, you can just like give the manifest to me, and like you could sure use some points. It's such a really great scene. I love the moments between Sawyer and Hurley. I think they have really good moments together. And so he checks on the manifest, and he discovers that Ethan was actually not on the plane. And it's a great idea by Hurley, because like if he hadn't done that, like they wouldn't have known it was Ethan who kidnapped Charlie and Claire. In flashbacks, Claire finds out that she is pregnant, and the father of her child, he doesn't want to have her baby anymore. Like he leaves her after a couple of months of her being pregnant, and she is left to raise the baby by herself. What a shitbag. 9 out of 10 episode in my opinion. It's a really enjoyable episode. Next up is All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues. So after Claire and Charlie are kidnapped by Ethan, 2 parties go out for her. Jack and Kate and Locke and Boone go hunting for Ethan. Jack encounters Ethan, and he really gets easily overpowered by him. Ethan warns Jack that like a lot of the survivors will be killed if he doesn't stop hunting for Ethan. Jack and Kate eventually find Charlie, who's like hanging from this tree, and I don't know how long he's been there. Like he's dead, but Jack eventually reanimates him. Like I love his style when he just like starts punching Charlie over and over again until he actually like is alive. Like I don't know where Jack learned this, but it worked. So hey, I guess he's a really miraculous doctor. Also shows how unwilling he is to let go. Like he can't let things go. He will try to save people, and he will never stop doing it. I love this episode. It's really suspenseful episode. I'll give this a 9.5 out of 10. Boone and Locke find a metal bunker as they're hunting for Claire and Charlie, and I love this moment. It's just like so unexpected. Next up is Whatever the Case May Be. Whatever the Case May Be is actually like, it's not as action-packed as the previous episode. It's kind of like a filler episode, but I think it's an interesting filler episode. It's not like a terrible episode at all. It's just like a pretty calm episode, especially with like last week's. So while swimming with Sawyer, Kate finds like this metal case that belongs to the marshal, but like in it, it's like her personal belongings. So like she wants to keep the case like no matter what, but she's not gonna like admit that to Sawyer. So Sawyer takes the case first, and then like she tries to take the case. Sawyer tries to take the case back. It's kind of like a game of cat and mouse. And she eventually tries to go to Jack so that they can open the case together, and she tells him like the key is on the marshal, and then Jack buried the marshal. Thank God he didn't burn him. And so they dig him up, and Kate actually like tries to deceive Jack. She hides the key from him, but Jack sees right through Kate, and they open the case together, and they find guns. They find a few of Kate's belongings, and she finds the plane that belonged to her ex-boyfriend. And like Jack just goes at her, like he's really upset at her, like as like he has a right to be. She's sometimes Kate is just insane. So meanwhile, Shannon tries to help like Saeed read Russo's map because they're in French, and this is how like their relationship develops. Flashbacks in this episode shows Kate trying to rob a bank with her ex. She's like playing sort of double agent, sort of. She's not really with her ex. She just want her personal stuff in this bank, so that's why she's robbing this bank. I give this episode an 8 out of 10. I think it's an entertaining episode, just not like a fantastic episode that I just love to watch. Next up is Hearts and Minds. So Shannon's and Saeed's relationship gets more personal. Boone doesn't like it. He doesn't like it one bit. But Boone and Locke tries to open the hatch that they found. Boone wants to tell Shannon about the hatch. Locke disagrees, so like he tests Boone. And Boone actually like passes this. He sort of passes the test, and he agrees with Locke now. Like he doesn't want to tell Shannon. Like they would probably have told everyone like when the time is right, but eventually like the others they find out about the hatch. So in flashbacks, Boone tries to get rid of Shannon's like really abusive boyfriend, but Shannon's like drawn to these type of boyfriends, and like Boone pays them off like every time. Like I wouldn't do that. Like Boone just like needs to let Shannon go at some point, because I'd give this episode an 8 out of 10. I think it's a pretty solid episode. Next up is Special. So Locke has been secretly showing Walt how to use a knife, like how to throw knives. Michael is pissed off at Locke for this. He of course disagrees with Locke, but Locke tells him that like Walt is special, and that he has endured like more stuff than a lot of adults have in their entire lives, and he's right about that. Like they're not back home, they're stuck on this island, and Walt kind of needs to grow and learn to hunt for himself. Walt is pissed off at Michael now. He heads off into the jungle, like, and gets trapped in this tree sort of, and he gets like hunted by a polar bear. Locke and Michael goes after Walt. I love this moment between them, because like Michael actually like comes to respect Locke now, because he helped Michael and Walt get out of this situation. Michael decides to build a raft in order to get his son off this island. He has this brilliant idea to use the bamboo, and he is actually an engineer, so he can build this raft to get the people off this island with the bear. Locke and Boone also find Claire in the middle of jungle while they're hunting for Vincent. Claire doesn't remember anything that's happened to her in the last couple of weeks. So in flashbacks, we sort of see Michael's relationship with Susan, and how the terrible person Susan is. She's really a horrible human being. She like abandons Michael. She takes Walt with her to Amsterdam for like a job. But I'm guessing like she probably already met somebody at this point. Like it's not just for the job. She leaves because she's not in love with Michael. She's in love with somebody else, and the whole thing is like horrible. I would feel pity for Michael if he hadn't like done such horrible things later on in this show, but like now I don't pity him, but I would feel pity because like Susan's just like a terrible person altogether, and she's just like an example of like not rushing things with your partner and finding the right partner, because like wow, she is just a bitch. So I'd give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. Next up is Homecoming. Claire is back among the survivors but has no memory of what happened to her. Ethan confronts Charlie. He tells Charlie that a person is gonna die every day if Charlie doesn't give her back Claire. So the survivors decide to use Claire as bait, which works. The plan works. They capture Ethan, but before like he can talk, before they can question him, Charlie just shoots him dead. Like Charlie doesn't care if he talks or not. Like he tells Jack that he probably wouldn't have talked, and he's probably right about that. I don't think that Ethan would have told them one thing about like the others or where he came from. So yeah, he kills him, and I think that Ethan really deserves to die. I'd give this episode a 9 out of 10. It's really entertaining, and Ethan really deserved to die. Outlaws. A flashback shows Sawyer's parents like deaths. His parents were both conned, and his father like kills his mother and he blows his brains out, while Sawyer watches everything under the bed. Like he witnesses everything. Sawyer becomes obsessed with finding a boar that like ravaged his tent. He asks Kate to help him find it, and I really like this episode because like there's good moments between him and Kate. They played the game like I Never, and they meet Locke, and Locke has a good conversation with them, and I just love this episode. I think it's a really wonderful episode. And in flashbacks, and we see Sawyer trying to track down a man in Australia, and then he shoots this man, believing him to be like Sawyer, the real Sawyer that James is looking for, but he got the wrong man. I'd give this episode a 9 out of 10. Next up is Translation. So Michael continues to build his raft. Eventually the raft actually catches fire, and everybody blames Jin. So Sun yells out like she yells in English, and everybody's surprised that she actually speaks English. Like for the first time, everybody hears her. She goes to see Jin after, and like Jin doesn't want to speak to her. Of course, she lied to him. Like it's a pretty big deal. Walt confesses to Locke after Locke goes to see him that he was the one who actually burned the raft, because he actually likes the island. He doesn't want to leave. So in the flashbacks of this episode, we see like parts of Jin and Sun's life together, and how like Jin was beating people for her father that owed him money, and this life really just took a toll on him, and it broke their relationship. Like the island literally like killed their relationship, and it brought them back together. Numbers. Hurley finds one of Russo's documents, and he realizes that with these numbers, he finds them on Russo's like notes, and the numbers he thinks are cursed. Like he uses on lottery jackpot. The numbers are 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42, and he like just freaks out. He thinks that Russo knows something, so he goes after her in the middle of the jungle, and the others like Jack, Kate, and Charlie, they go after Hurley to help him. So this episode is like kind of like a small adventure for the survivors. But like I like when they like cross this bridge that she made, and it's like really unstable, and I like some of the moments in this episode. I think it's really fun, and I like seeing like in the flashbacks how unlucky Hurley is, and whether or not like I don't believe that the numbers are really like cursed, as Hurley puts it. I think it's just like a string of bad luck that Hurley had, and that's why why people like died around him. And yeah, I like this episode a lot. I think it's really great. I give this episode a 9 out of 10. Next up is Deus Ex Machina. Locke notices in this episode that he can't walk the way he used to. He dreams about like this plane crash, and he sees like Boone saying in the dream, like, Teresa falls up the stairs, Teresa falls down the stairs. I love this this episode because like they go through this plane wreckage, they find this plane, and Locke tells Boone to go up the cliff. It's like this huge cliff. It's super dangerous. Boone goes up. Like, he is actually a hero. Boone is like he's a great character. Also, like, Boone finds like the statues with heroin inside them. Like he throws one at Locke. Like, that's what you call destiny. And he goes to the plane so that he can like try to contact somebody out in the outside world. And then the plane falls. It crashes his legs. Boone is badly wounded, and Locke goes to bring him back to the camp. But we later find out that this plane was Mr. Echo's plane, which is like a great, cool little connection there. Locke brings Boone back to Jack. He lies to Jack about how he got his injuries, probably just because he felt ashamed. You should have told Jack the truth. Like, I don't know. I don't really understand why Locke lies so much in this season, but yeah, he lies to Jack, and he gets the hell out of here. And I love the ending scene of this episode. Like, Locke just bangs on the hatch door, and he's like, "What do you want me to do?" He's just like losing it, and then like this brilliant white light appears, and he thinks like it's like destiny calling him, almost. Like, it's just a great moment, and that's how the episode ends. I give this episode a 9.5 out of 10. It's really a terrific episode, and the next episode, Do No Harm, is just as good, in my opinion. Jack tries to save Boone here. He tries all sorts of things. He wants to give Boone blood himself. Like, they go to ask all the survivors like what their blood type is, but like a lot of people don't really know their blood type, and so Jack does the transfusion himself. Son helps him, and eventually Jack realizes that he needs to cut off Boone's legs. It's just really hard to watch, almost. Like, you know that Boone is gonna die. He's way too wounded, and he's losing way too much blood for him to like survive this injury. And Son finally manages to tell him, like, you have to let go of Jack. Like, you can't save him. And Boone also like tells him that he needs to stop. Like, and there's no point in him like cutting off his leg. He's gonna die. So Jack accepts his defeat. He lets Boone die, but at the same time this is happening, Claire and Jin and Kate are in the middle of the jungle, and Claire is having contraction. She's gonna deliver the baby, and so Kate has to deliver the baby while Jack is operating on Boone. And like at the ending of this episode, we can get a birth at the same time as death, and the life and death team plays. It's like one of the best themes in Lost. It's such a terrific theme. I absolutely love it. And like it ends with like Jack going after Locke. Like, he's completely angry at Locke, as he should be. I'd give Do No Harm a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's absolutely a fantastic episode. And, the greater good, Locke arrives at Boone's funeral, and he tries to speak. He tries to tell the others what happened, but like he's attacked by Jack. Jack is super angry at Locke, and Jack just goes at him. Like, he calls him like a murderer. Like, where the hell were you, you son of a bitch? It's a great intense moment, and it's just really a great episode. John Locke asks Shannon for forgiveness, but Shannon, of course, she's grieving. It's a recent loss, and she's not thinking clearly, so she steals a gun from Jack. She steals like a gun from the case that Kate found, and she wants to kill Locke. She almost does, but like Saeed stops her at like the right moment. The bullet just scratches Locke, like it scratches him, and he was almost killed off by Shannon. She could have like killed him. Thank God she didn't. So Saeed later orders Locke to like get him to the hatch. He lies to him at first, like he tells Saeed that it was just like hatches from the plane, but like Saeed doesn't buy it, and he tells Locke like to get him to the hatch that they found. And in flashbacks, Saeed agrees to do a favor for the CIA, and he needs to let a suicide bombing happen, and the suicide bomber is one of his past friends, Essam, who eventually kills himself. It's a pretty sad like moment in Saeed's life. I'd give this episode a 9 out of 10. Next up is A Born to Run. It's a great episode. The flashbacks focus on Kate's past life. So, she's seen as a fugitive. She's like dyeing her hair. She has different car plates. She meets her ex Tom, and together they dig up this box that they buried in the ground, and they have like personal belongings there. They made tapes, and like they had Kate gets her toy airplane, which is later found in the case, and Tom is later killed in the car accident because of Kate's actions. So Kate has like a lot of blood on her hands. She's not a great person. On the island, Kate tries to fight for a spot on the raft, and she knows that she's gonna get arrested if like the media and the cops like arrive at the same time, like when they're rescued. So it's like she's gonna try to get away like almost inconspicuously, but like there's no chance really of that happening. Like she can't really run. She's gonna get caught no matter what, so like it doesn't matter if she gets on the spot, but she's not really thinking clearly at this point, so she's going after like Sawyer's spot, and Sawyer won't have it. Like they go at each other, and Michael gets poisoned. He doesn't feel good. His water gets poisoned inside it, and we later find out that it's Sun. Jack goes to confront Sun because she doesn't want Jin to leave, so she tried to poison Jim, but like Michael got the poison inside him. Not really a good idea for Sun, but like whatever, it was Kate's idea. And so Sawyer angrily tells everyone about Kate's past. He tells them that she was a convict, and like a lot of people are angry and they don't really want to talk to Kate anymore. And eventually at the end of the episode, Kate and Sawyer sort of reconcile. They say their goodbyes because they're leaving. Sawyer's leaving soon. Imagine that they don't really want to talk anymore. But yeah, they say their goodbyes, and Walt tells his father that he was responsible for burning the raft, but he agrees to leave the island anyway. I'd give this episode a 8.5 out of 10. It's a pretty solid episode, really entertaining. Last episode, Exodus Part 1, 2, and 3. It's probably my favorite episode of the season. I think it's really enjoyable. It's really suspenseful. It's closes out this season with a bang, with a cliffhanger, but like it also resolves a few storylines. So I think it's a great episode on its own. So at the beginning of the episode, Russo arrives to the camp, and she warns the survivors that the others are coming, and that with them there's like this column of black smoke that they lit, and she warns that they have 3 choices: run, hide, or die. So they decide to hide. They want to blow up the hatch, and so she tells them that she can lead them to the black rock, and so that they can find dynamite to open the hatch. So, meanwhile, the raft is almost ready to be launched. The first attempt at launching the raft wasn't successful, and like Sawyer is blamed for it, even though it wasn't really his fault. So he goes in the jungle to cut a bamboo, and I love the scene where we see like Sawyer shirtless. Like that is one handsome man right there. Jack goes to give Sawyer ammo, and since this was like a kindness to Sawyer, Sawyer decides to tell Jack about the moment where he met Jack's father in Sydney. And he tells Jack about their conversation and how Christian felt sorry and he could have just like picked up a phone to call his kid, but he didn't have the guts to do it. And like the expression on Jack's face is absolutely amazing, and the acting here is phenomenal. It might just be my favorite scene in this entire series. It's just fantastic stuff between these two. I love this moment. I really do. I think it's really phenomenal. It's definitely the best moment of the entire season. Of the series, I don't know, but the season, absolutely. I love also the next scene after that. Almost, it's where they launch the raft and like the dog goes after Walt and Michael and tries to swim to the raft. Like music plays. It's really sad. But Michael and Walt, Jin, and Sawyer, they head off to the ocean to an uncertain future, and that's how the first episode ends. And in flashbacks, we see like the final hours of some of the survivors that get on the Oceanic 815. And we see the first meeting between Ana Lucia and Jack Shepherd as well at the airport, which is pretty cool. So the survivors arrive to the Black Rock, and they find out that it's like this wrecked ship in the middle of the jungle. How that happened, I have no idea. Probably magic. And they discovered like this was like a slave ship, and they find the dynamite. Arts blows up. He just like explodes. It's a great moment, so unexpected. And they decide to carefully handle the dynamite. Russo leaves because she has business elsewhere, and they head back to the hatch with dynamite. Locke gets attacked by this moth monster. It's this intense moment. He gets dragged down this hole, and he begs Kate to like let him go, but like Kate doesn't, of course. And she like tries to drag him up, but she then throws in the dynamite, and Locke is saved. What was going through his head at that moment, I don't know. I love the conversation between him and Jack afterwards, and then Jack tells Kate like, we're gonna have a lot of problem after this night, because like they're gonna open the hatch and Locke is probably gonna like take the situation, take care of the situation, and become like the leader after this. Russo gets back to the beach, and she goes directly to Charlie and Claire, and she takes Aaron. She kidnaps Aaron, and so Saeed and Charlie goes after her. I love this entire scene. I love how they rush towards her, and Charlie will stop at nothing to take back Aaron. And he gets injured. I love how Saeed just burns him with gunpowder, and like so brutal. And they eventually find Russo. They find her, and they grab the baby, and like Charlie yells at her, but like Saeed kind of accepts that she is really out of her mind. And so meanwhile on the raft, Michael, Walt, Sawyer, and Jin, and they come up this signal. They think that it's a boat that's coming near them, so they decide to fire the flare gun. Their one chance. Sawyer like just tells Michael that they have no choice, that they should do it, and Michael does it, and they are soon saved by some fishermen. And like of course they're happy, but it doesn't last, because the bearded man, he tells Michael that we're gonna have to take the boy. It's such really a creepy moment, and they realize that these people are actually others. They're not there to save them. Sawyer is shot, and then Jin goes after him in the water. Michael is quickly overpowered by the others, and Walt is kidnapped. And the others, they blow up the raft, and Michael is left alone in the water, and we don't know what happened to Jin, and Sawyer is wounded, and Michael desperately calls after Walt. And so meanwhile in the jungle, Kate, Jack, and Locke and Hurley, they are going to open the hatch. They place their dynamite, and just before they do, Hurley sees the numbers, the 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42 on the hatch, and he just flips out. He tells Locke to stop it, but Locke doesn't care. He just wants to blow this thing up, and they manage to blow it up, and this season ends on a great cliffhanger. Locke and Jack look through the hole, and they wonder what's inside. Like the rest of us, we wonder what's inside this hatch, and that's how the first season ends. I love this finale. It's my favorite episode of the season 1. I think it's wonderful. It's got the intense moments and really good character moments as well. I'd give this episode a 9.5 out of 10. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on every episode of Lost season 1. I love this season. I give this season overall a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's great, and I just love it, and it's really just a fantastic first season overall. It's phenomenal. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, what your favorite moment of season 1 is, what your favorite episode is, and let me know, and please like, subscribe, and see you next time. Bye.
Do you really think all this is an accident? That we, a group of strangers, survived? Do you think we crashed on this place by coincidence? Each one of us was brought here for a reason.
And who brought us here, John?
The island.